Today we're going to be learning how to crochet this super cute and easy bow. This is a great project for beginners and it only takes a few minutes. I'm also going to be telling you how to customize the size and shape of your bow if you'd like to, and I'll be working through the stitches with you as we use them. For this project, all you're going to need is some worsted weight for acrylic yarn, a 5mm hook, a pair of scissors, and a tapestry needle, and we can go ahead and get started. I'm going to start my bow with the top section here. So this is going to be two separate pieces, this top piece and this bottom piece. So we're going to get started by making the top piece of our bow. And to do that, we need to make a slip knot. To make a slip knot, I'm going to wrap the yarn around two of my fingers and pinch the yarn tail with my thumb. Then I'm going to take the pointer finger on my opposite hand and place it under that first strand of yarn and over the second. Then I'm just going to flip that second strand of yarn up and pull it tight. Now that we have our slip knot, we can start making our chain. To make a chain, we're going to yarn over and pull that directly through the loop on our hook to make one chain. Again, yarn over and pull that directly through the loop on our hook to make our next chain. Now the number of chains we're going to make is going to depend on how large you'd like this top section of your bow to be. I'm going to be chaining 20 and my bow measures about 2.5 to 3 inches wide. We can also customize how large we'd like this section to be, but we will get to that in just a minute. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to be chaining 20. I have 2 chains, so let's make the other 18. So to know how large the top section of your bow is going to be, all you have to do is fold your chain in half. So if you don't like the size of this, you can go ahead and add more chains or take some away. Okay, I have my 20 chains here, and we're going to get started on row 1. And we want to make a single crochet into each chain, starting in the second chain from the hook. So the second chain is going to be right here. Here's our first chain and our second. And we want to make our first single crochet into that loop right there. Okay, so to make a single crochet, we're going to insert the hook into that second chain, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through both of those loops on the hook, and that completes our first single crochet. Let's make our next single crochet by inserting the hook into that next chain, yarning over and pulling up a loop, yarning over and pulling through both of those loops on the hook. And we're going to continue doing this all the way down our chain. And you should have one less stitch than you had chains because we skipped that very first chain at the beginning. For example, I had 20 chains, so I should have 19 single crochets in total when I get done here. So again, I'm placing one single crochet into each chain all the way down until I get to the end. Okay, I have made all 19 of my single crochets. Now, if you make it to the end of your first row and your stitches are twisted up like this, that is totally normal. It's going to flatten out as we work, so just don't even worry about it. If it's super curled up, you can just flatten it out like this. And again, don't worry about it because it will flatten out as we continue to work. Now we're going to flip our work over so we can continue working back down the opposite direction. And as you can see on the top of your work, there are 2 little V stitches at the top. And we want to be sure that we're working each one of our single crochet stitches into both of those V's, just like that. So our very first single crochet is going to go into this first stitch right here. Your chain will not count as a stitch, and we're going to skip over that. So let's insert the hook into that entire stitch under both of those V's at the top, and make our single crochet by yarning over, pulling up a loop, yarning over, and pulling through both of those loops on the hook. And again, just like in row 1, we're going to place one single crochet into each stitch for the entire row, and you should end with the exact same number of single crochets in row 2 that you ended with in row 1. Okay, I'm at the end of row 2, and we can go ahead and get started on row 3 by chaining 1 and turning our work so we can again work back down in the opposite direction. And row 3 is going to be exactly the same as row 2. I'm placing one single crochet into each stitch for the entire row, starting in that very first stitch there. And you should end row 3 again with the same number of stitches that you ended row 2 with. So I will meet you back here at the end of row 3. Okay, I'm at the end of row 3 now, and this is where I'm going to go ahead and stop because I'm happy with the width here of my bow. So when you fold it over, that is what's going to be the top part of our bow right here. So if you'd like this to be thicker, just add a few more rows. It is totally up to you. But I'm going to go ahead and stop here. And for the top part of our bow to tie off, we need to chain 1, and we need to leave a long yarn tail. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that. It doesn't have to be specific, but you want to have enough yarn to wrap around the center here when we get to that section. Then I'm just going to pull that up and through that loop and pull it tight. To make the bottom piece of our bow, we're going to follow the exact same steps that we just did to make the top section. I used the exact same number of chains and rows to make my bottom piece. The difference between the top and the bottom is that we're just not going to need that long yarn tail for the bottom piece. So go ahead and rewind the video if you need to and make your bottom piece. Now to customize the tail of your bow, if you'd like this section to be longer, you can add some chains. And if you'd like it to be wider or smaller, you can add or reduce the number of rows. I think I did 4 rows for this tail. And go ahead and make your bottom piece, and I will meet you back here. So now that we have both pieces of our bow, I'm going to start with the top piece, which is the piece with the very long yarn tail. And I need to start by attaching my tapestry needle to this yarn tail here. So let's go ahead and do that. And we want to fold the edges of our top piece here together, like so. And I'm just going to sew these two edges together with the tapestry needle and the yarn tail. And I'm just going back and forth along both of the edges to attach them together. This does not need to be perfect. Okay, so you can see that we've formed a little ring here. And we no longer need the tapestry needle. And I'm just going to secure my yarn tails here by tying them together and making a knot. Okay, now that we have our little ring, I'm going to make sure that the seam is lined up with the center right here where we want our bow to be cinched in. I'm going to take that long yarn tail and wrap it around the center like that, and I'm going to pull it tight. And I just want to do that a few times, just like that. Now we're going to attach the bottom section right here. And we want to fold this together so that we can find the center right here. And I'm just going to pinch that to fold it together like that. And that's where we want to attach the top piece. So I'm just going to lay that against the center where it is folded. And we're going to continue wrapping our long yarn tail around. Make sure it's tight to attach everything together. And I'm just going to keep going until I reach the end of my yarn tail here. If you're happy with everything, we can go ahead and secure these yarn tails. We're going to make sure that they are both facing the back of our project. And I'm just going to tie them together in a knot again. Like that, and you can just trim these or you can weave them in. And finally, we just need to weave in these yarn tails here. So go ahead and do that, and you are all finished with your bow. I really hope that you enjoyed this project. I love how customizable these are, and they're so quick and easy to make. Subscribe if you're not already, and I will see you guys in the next one.